Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I hope you're having an amazing day so far. Today we are reacting to traditional cowboy beans because who doesn't like the fantasy of the cowboy lifestyle? I love cowboy movies where you see the cowboy out in the wilderness on his own, cooking his beans and his cowboy coffee over the fire. There's something so awesome about the thought of that sort of lifestyle. And I love me some curried beans. Now, I'm not sure if these are curried or spiced, but in South Africa, we have something called a bunny chow where I'm from in Durban. Well, I think it's pretty much all over South Africa, but Durban, where I'm from, a bean bunny on the beach with a pint of milk is like a thing we used to do really often. We'd sit on the beach with our bean bunny chow, eating with your hands and drinking milk. The bunny chow is basically a half loaf or quarter loaf of bread, hollowed out, curry put in, and then whatever you hollowed out on top, and you just dip the bread and eat it. It's so good, so good. Unfortunately, here in Slovakia, I can't get all the spices I used to use to make my beans in the UK. I'd made a mean bean curry. Even my missus really enjoyed it. But the aftermath of that was you would fight like a trooper for hours, and yeah, but it was good fun and it was delicious. So I really miss that sort of food. So yeah, we're going to check out this video. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you're feeling extra frisky, you may as well hit the like button as well. I do have a Buy Me a Coffee page down in the description if anyone wants to buy a coffee to help support the channel. Please don't feel like there's any obligation to do so. And without further ado, let's get into traditional cowboy beans.
Hey, thank y'all for stopping by camp, and camp might be in a different spot, and done got one there.
He's a cowboy, isn't he? Look at that tash. What a legend.
Them drive-bys
I love them hats.
We're in Lebanon, Missouri at an annual event, Wagons for Warriors. And folks, this is the largest chuckwagon gathering that I know of in the world, and there'll be around 30 here today, and we're going to raise money for a great cause, we are. But what are we talking about, and what could be more traditional than when you got a bunch of old wagons gathered around? Old wagon food. I'm thinking about something that really goes with it. You know, there was always coffee and there was biscuits, but a thing that was there every
I want to really check out a cowboy coffee one because I love my coffee.
Meal, I guarantee you, was beans. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. And we're going to go through this little process and show you what I think beans need to be and how they need to be spiced up, talk about the different kinds of beans and the history they played in the part of the trail going down through there to feed them cowboys. What did they eat going down the trail? Oh, they pulled up to Mickey D's and said, hey, I'm at the drive-up window. Folks, none of that ever existed back then, and I think the food was probably better. Now, old Cookie, he had a job to feed cowboys, and back there during the trail drive days, there was not 3 meals a day. There was a very early morning meal and a late night meal. Some of them guys would be trading off in shifts of watching cattle, and some of them eat at this time, some of them going to eat at midnight. So old Cookie, he had a lot of stuff to keep going. And the thing that he always had on the fire, coffee and beans. Now, beans was easy for him to take, because remember, there's no refrigeration. We ain't talking about we're going to have none of this just stuck in an ice chest somewhere. He had all dry goods, dried coffee, sugar, flour, beans. You got to have some of them beans. Now, most of the time back during Cookie's days, they were cooking a lot of pinto beans, but also they were cooking a lot of Anasazi beans. And even more than that, they were cooking some kidney beans. Now, there's little green beans, there's lima beans, there's white navy beans, there's all kind of beans in the world. But a pinto was the go-to bean. Now, he'd get them in probably a 50-pound sack, throw them in the wagon there, and he'd just dip out of there with an old coffee can or a pot, what he thought they needed. Now, when I'm feeding beans, I use a pound of dried beans to feed 10 people. That'll usually get you by. Cool. But folks has always asked me, what kind of beans do you like to use?
Pound of beans for 10 people? Flippin' heck. I thought it would be a lot more than that.
And pinto beans, I really prefer casserole brand. They've always been good and clean for me, and you can even buy them at Sam's pre-cleaned beans, so you ain't got to do what? Go through here and pick the rocks out, and like this little bean right there, see him, Shin?
What's wrong with him?
He's a little shriveled up bean.
Oh.
He didn't get to make the trip. And you be picking out them rocks if there's any in there. Now, also a very important thing that you got to remember when you're cooking beans is you count them beans. You go all the way till you get to 39, and every 41, you throw it out. That way you ain't gonna have no gas in there. But get your beans. Today we're mixing
maybe that's where I went wrong.
Kidney beans and pinto beans together. I got a bean pot over there, and we're gonna let the water warm, and then we're gonna pour the beans in. Now, we done got them dried, picked, and clean. I left that one out there so y'all could see what we was doing and going on. But go through there, get them rocks. Grandma said leave the rocks in there, they'll float to the bottom, and if you get them, it's good for your gizzard. So now
Float to the
traditionally
bottom.
when I make them, I'm just usually
Sink
most
to
of
the
the time
bottom.
using jalapeno, onion, garlic, cilantro. But back then, old Cookie had a very wide selection of old dried pepper.
Sorry, I just want to rewind that. I've got so many jalapeno plants growing
Onion,
at the
garlic,
moment.
cilantro. But back then, old Cookie had a very wide selection of old dried peppers that he took with him on the wagon. I like to use an ancho or a cascabel or a guajillo chili. They're going to add so much flavor to this. Now remember, our water done warmed. So we're going to go ahead and dump these beans in there. And I hear some of you out there already saying, he probably going to soak them beans. Folks, I think I'm probably about 2,600 foot elevation. I'm not going to soak that beans because that old stove standing behind Shan there, known as Bertha, she will reach temperatures unknown to NASA, and she will boil beans in about 2 hours and have them done like you cooked them all day. But I have had to soak my beans a lot, going in different places where there was what? High altitude. Beans cooking at sea level versus 7,000 foot versus 10,000 foot are gonna cook totally different. Now,
I would not have thought that. How the heck did... I would never have known that.
7,000 foot versus
Holy
10,000
smoke.
foot are gonna cook totally different. Now, if you're in
You learn something
places
new
like
every day.
that, I like to soak my beans, like put them in an ice chest, get the water good and cold, pour the beans in there, let them soak overnight, but make sure that water stays cold because you don't want them beans to sour. And then you can rinse them, drain them off, go back to starting them at that. But I have also cooked them really slow from like 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night with just a little bitty fire and get them done. But folks, a lot of people soak them beans. I don't see a need in it till you get up there at a very high altitude. So we done got our kidney beans in there, our pinto beans.
is
Now
that?
traditionally, old Cookie probably wouldn't have had no ham hock. I do love a ham hock, but he would have probably used salt pork or some old jowls or some old fatty bacon that maybe he had left over there, some side meat. So we're gonna chunk him in there. And guess what we got here? We have got us some guajillo chilies. And we're gonna break out the, what you call it, Shen? What do you call this? Remember?
Mortar and pestle?
Yeah, but there's another name for it that I can't remember.
masher.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it the masher. So them chilies has been roasted some, and I just want you to just take them and just grind them up a little more. Because when you break these down like that
didn't
and go
know
ahead
what
and put them in
chilies
there
are,
with them
though.
beans, we're gonna get some of that good old rich traditional flavor, but we're gonna get some of that good smoke
If you look in the background, there's those porta potties there. Probably could have chose a better place, but
flavor that it brings out too. And they ain't got to be finely ground. I just want them where they're in pretty small pieces because that hot water gonna work a number on them too. So get them in there, a garlic clove, and it is a big one of them elephant ear garlics. And old Cookie had one of these hanging, I'm pretty sure right there, an old hash knife. This is the best chopping device I've ever seen in my life, but I like to mash them garlic, give them a little bitty mash in there. Now I just like to chop this up sort of best you can. We're just gonna chunk it right in there.
that's pretty cool actually.
Good to go. Now, let's talk about onions. There's white onions, there's yellow onion, there's purple onion. Some people call them a red onion. They've always been purple to me. I love a white onion in beans. Now, I've used a Vidalia onion some in beans, but I prefer a good white onion that you're gonna put in there. And a lot of people, when they get them onions and they're gonna use them, they're gonna chop them up in some little bitty pieces. So just don't make them so small that you can't find them in a pot of beans. And I think a white onion
I like
holds
that
up really
knife
well
thing. I
and
really want one
gives
of
some
those.
natural flavor. So 2 onions is what we're using today with 4 pounds of beans. And I like to use 2 jalapenos. Now, Shan know if it's me, I ain't gonna get the seeds, the stems, nothing out of them. And that's the way it's gonna be today because this is for me and my friends. And we like our food to bite back. Now, if you don't want yours that hot, peel that stem and them seeds out of there. You'll be good to go. You won't even know it's got a pepper in it. We got the onions in there. We got
I like it with seeds as well. If you don't know there's pepper in there, then what's the point, eh?
the jalapeno. We got the dried chilies in there.
I like a bit
And
of a
what else
bite.
do we have in there, Shan? Do you remember what else we might have snuck in there? Some beans and some garlic, yeah. And folks, I love to put some cilantro in mine, but not fresh. Now, a lot of people tell me, why don't you use fresh cilantro? To me, it tastes like soap. To a lot of people, it tastes like soap. Shan, she be loving it, but not so much me. I love to use dried. So I'm gonna get me probably I'd say nearly 1/4 of a cup for 2 pounds of beans, which is, the wind is blowing. So we're going to put about that much in there. And I want y'all to meet me at the fire. Ooh, look what I got here. I have got the Cadillac of all Berthas. Me and Rich and the good folks at Hasty Baked Grills there in Tulsa have went off the old Bertha pattern and made this one. Some of you might have seen it in our fried onion video that come out, the Oklahoma fried onion burger. Woo, them things is good. Cookie didn't have one of these. So on some ranches, early 1900s, late 1890s, you might have seen another little wagon hooked to the back end of that one, which was called a pup wagon, and there might have been a little old two-hole stove in there, and he just dump it out and cook with it. Now, a lot of them didn't have it, but some did. I like this because, folks, I ain't bending over on the ground, letting everything blow in my gravy and eggs. We designed this just like the original old Bertha. I'm gonna take an eye out of it because Bertha has really, really hot, and then when you take an eye out, it's got, whoo, I'm gonna get some kind of that hot. So we're just gonna put this over, and we're just gonna let it begin to simmer, and then we're gonna let it begin to boil. We're gonna give it one little stir right now, and some of you said, wait.
I thought that was enough.
Season that. Well, folks, I don't like to season my beans till they start cooking pretty good, because if you just put it all in there at one time and keep cooking it, you done boiled most of the flavor out of it. So we're gonna stir them up, let them come to a good rolling boil, and I'll meet you back over here at the fire and I'll show you what else is going in them. Well, old Bertha has done her job. We've been on about probably 10 or 12 minutes, and we have got us a good low simmering boil, as you can see 10 or 12 minutes. And let me pull them up. You can still distinguish.
I don't even think our stove upstairs will boil it that quick.
Between a kidney bean and a pinto bean. And guess what?
It's already looking thick.
It is time to season at this point right now. We ain't gonna season at the first, remember, because you're gonna boil some of that away. Now, traditionally, I wouldn't be using like chili powder and all this stuff, but I'm sort of jazzing these up maybe the way old Cookie had so many years ago, because he wouldn't have a lot of what I had. He wouldn't have original Kent Rollins seasoning nor the mesquite. So we're gonna add probably about, I would say, a tablespoon and a half of chili powder, 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika, about 1 tablespoon of cumin, if we can get it in there for the wind blowing. And then we're gonna use some of our mesquite seasoning, which has got some ancho chili in it. Now, folks be telling me, oh, is that really spicy? No, it's just the right blend to give you a little bit of a touch of heat, but also a lot of that smoky flavor. Probably about a tablespoon, and then about a tablespoon of our original. Now, we will season these to our seating at the end to make sure that it's just right. And you notice I got me a pot here that has got some water in it that stays hot. So when you add beans to water as they boil.
Add water to beans?
Remember, when you're adding water to beans as they boil, and we want them to come to a boil and just watch them, just let them simmer there. But you need to put hot water back in there when you're adding it, not cold water. Ain't no sense in shocking them little fellers. You done got them all hot and warm and toasty in that bathtub. Don't be pulling some cold water on them. Keep you some.
See, I love videos like this. He's teaching you all these little tips. I wouldn't have known that. I would have just whacked some cold water in.
Hot water going.
I want to try to do this because I've always wanted to taste them cowboy beans.
That was hot. I just want y'all to know when you picked that up, that was hot. We're gonna let them get really good and tender, and I'll show you a trick there to last. When you pull that bean up out of there and the skin cracks, we're getting pretty close.
That's such an awesome cook stove. I really want one of those for outside. I love cooking outside. I would always choose cooking outside over inside. I mean, there's less cleanup and it's just much better, isn't it? I'd love to go to one of these festival things. It looks awesome. Cast iron pots, the old camp stoves. I bet you the food there is amazing. Look at that. This festival thing or whatever it is looks amazing, man. I bet you the food and the company there is awesome. Everyone looks so friendly. What are they making?
The new Bertha here has cooked them about 2.5 to 3 hours, and they are done. Now, you can cook a bean to death, but why would you? When you can pull a bean up out of there, and he still looks like he's holding his shape, but he is good and soft, as you can see, that bean is done. Don't cook him. We ain't making refried beans out of these. These is beans like in a stew pot. Now, I know times are going to vary from where you live and what altitude you are.
Jesus, he's got hands like asbestos. He's just leaning on the pot. He's like, yeah, it's all right.
Cool. Now, remember, we talked about soaking beans before, and if you need to at high altitude, you go ahead. But put them over a fire, keep you some hot water, always add to them. But you can see how these beans have sort of thickened up. That's what a lot of people call soup beans, what I call good beans, right there for sure. Now, set them over, just let them sit. Hey, you're good to go after that 3 hours. Just keep them warm. The longer them beans sit there and you stir them every once in a while and eat out of them, the better they're going to be. They're going to be better the next day.
I was just going to say, I bet you it's like those curried beans. We always cook them the day before. Yeah, you can have a little taste, but they so much better the following day.
Over by the time you get to the next day. Oh, we dripped on the new Bertha.
Oh,
it's a
that
self-cleaning
looks good.
oven. It'll take care of itself.
Those look good. I want to try this.
That's a wrap. I'm through. Them are fit to eat. We're done.
Yes.
And then we're going to do the bean move. Oh, yeah, them was so good, them beans was. I mean, that's what's happening.
I'd say you've had enough.
Now, remember, when you're cooking beans, add whatever you want to in there for a meat source, whether it be chorizo, ham hock, salt pork. But if you're using a salt pork, don't salt them beans or don't use so much seasoning because you're going to get a lot of that salt off the salt pork. Remember, everything that we used in this video will be down there in the little description, and the recipe will down there as well. As when you click on that link, it'll take you to it. Traditional cowboy beans with a little southwestern, south of the border flair. Use them old dried chilies. You won't regret it. Thank you, Steve Hull and the fine folks at Lebanon for this.
What an awesome bloke. I'm going to watch a few more of his. I've seen a couple of his videos long ago, but I didn't realize like he had a full-on channel. You know, you just come on and check them. He makes some nice looking food, my kind of food, and it's all cooked outside, which is even better. I'm going to try these beans. He's got the recipe. Let's see if the recipe's in the comments, or is it a link? Yeah, it's a link. It's a link. Printable. It's a printable link as well. You can go print the recipe. So I will be doing that, and I'll be giving them a go. If anyone wants to see any of these recipes that I'm going to try, just let me know. I'm glad. I'll be happy to show you. I'll probably mess them up the first few times. I do like to cook. I love to cook, but I love to eat even more. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. Get out there and cook some cowboy beans and let your family know. You know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.